Hi guys, it's Night Fear, and I'm coming on today to do my wrap up for the hashtag disability readathon. Now I actually read the 5 books, one from each category, not necessarily the ones I picked, but I did. But I didn't get to the bonus because I actually wanted to read 10 of the books, but I only got 5 read. So it's a win as far as doing what the readathon asked. It's a fail for me because I didn't get all the books read that I wanted to. So I'm going to share the category, or share the book from each category that I read, and then I wanted to share a couple that I had started as we go along, because I know a couple of you showed interest in some of the books that I've started that I haven't finished. And so I'm going to give you my opinion of the book kind of so far, so that you can see what I think. Yeah. Anyway, so the first category, I did not read the 2 books I was supposed to, nor did I start them. But the book that I read, because I read 2 books for category 2, and one of those books happened to fit one of the challenges, so I moved it so that I could pass. And so the one I did was read a nonfiction book, and that is, I read Stitches by David Small, because this is actually a memoir, and it is a graphic novel, and it is about a boy who, his parents are a little neglectful, and he has some issues with his throat, and he's taken to the doctor, and they just kind of put off stuff that they should have done, and he ends up having to have surgery because he has a tumor that has grown too large, and he ends up getting his vocal cords removed. So this is kind of about how that happened, why it happened, and a little bit about after. It was okay. I gave this 3 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping I would, but it is an interesting story. It's a sad story. You feel really bad for this little boy. So yeah, so that's Stitches. So for category 2, I read a comic book, but in this case it was a graphic novel. And this is Piper by Jay Asher and Jessica Freeberg. This story was amazing. I didn't realize, because at the beginning it just kind of said that it's about this deaf girl with a village, and they kind of treat her badly because she's deaf, and because she's different. But this is actually a retelling of the Pied Piper. This book was amazing. This was, I loved the art. The story was amazing. I gave this 5 stars. I have never read a Pied Piper retelling, so now I'm going to have to look about maybe seeing if there are any more, because this story really kind of intrigued me, and on what happened and why, and yeah, it was really good, and it was really short, which helped too, because that's why I finished it. So yeah, so that's the second one I read. So the third category, okay, this is one of the ones I started but didn't finish, and that was read a book set in the future, and this is actually a couple of people seemed interested in. That is The Speed of Dark by Elizabeth Moon. This is about an autistic man who was one of the last kind of generation that were born autistic, because they found a cure, I guess, in the womb. It doesn't really explain that too much. Maybe it will, because like I said, I'm about halfway done with this one. But we're following him, and we're following him like in his day-to-day life. He's going to work, and he's hanging out with his friends, and the job is very specific. They have the workplace is kind of tailored to them, and I'm right at the point where things are starting to change a little bit, and they're discussing having a cure now that's been tested on rats, blah, blah, blah. And so it's getting into that part where, you know, will you take the cure? And this one is important for me because my son, if you guys didn't, some of you probably don't know, but I have a 7-year-old son who happens to be autistic. And I've thought about this because people talk about it. You know, if there was a cure, would you? And as his mom, I don't think I would, because his autism is part of who Christopher is. And if you take that away, then, you know, you're taking a part of him away. So, you know, I don't think so. He might have a different answer as he grows older. Maybe I will too as he grows older. But right now, the answer is no for me. So, but this is a really, really great book so far. I have a feeling if it continues on the way it's going, it's going to either be a 4 or a 5 star. So, yeah. So for those of you that were interested in this, I would recommend it. And this is written Elizabeth Moon. She is a mother of an autistic child. So it's not like an Own Voices, but it is kind of, because, I mean, she does have, you know, kind of some insight in part of that world. Okay, so the book that I actually finished reading for this was Read a Book Featuring a Physical Disability, and I just finished this last night, and oh my goodness. It's The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This is about a little girl. She's living in London right before the start of World War II, or right as it's starting. And she has a club foot, and she is 11, I think, if I remember right. And her mother is very, very abusive. It's just her mother, and her younger brother. She is not allowed to go outside. She's not allowed to walk. She is basically, you know, a caged animal. She's trapped in the apartment. When she does things wrong, her mother sticks her in the cabinet underneath the kitchen, or a kitchen sink, and it's horrible. And then they hear about the war. Some of the kids are being evacuated from London, and she wants to go, and her mother says no. And so they end up going, and she finds a kind of a new life with this woman who really doesn't want them, but yeah, things happen. So I would highly, highly recommend this. It's an amazing book. But like I said, there is definitely abuse in here. And that's at the beginning. Yeah, so, but definitely recommend. 5 stars. There is a second one. It kind of ends up where you wouldn't need the second one if you don't want to read it, because it ends up kind of nicely. You still kind of wonder what's going to happen next, but there is a second one, so I am definitely going to read that one to find out what happens next to her and her brother. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend this. And especially if you like World War II, it kind of goes into, I like World War II books. I like all World War II books, but especially ones that kind of have a little bit of a different take of what was happening at that time, with different people in different parts. So yeah, that's definitely a wonderful, amazing book. So that was category 3. Category 4 is Read a Romance. I also finished this one yesterday, and that is How We Roll by Natasha Friend. This is amazing. I mean, this is like a bunch of disability all rolled up into one. So we have our main character who we're following, who we get her point of view, and she has alopecia. And all her hair, the hair on her head, not her eyebrows, but the hair on her head has fallen out. And where she was living in Colorado, they make fun of her, and her family ends up moving to Massachusetts, and so she can wear a wig, and nobody will know it's a wig because they don't know her. So that's going on. Then her brother has autism, and she's a 14, I think. She's a freshman in high school. Her brother is 9, I think, if I remember right. Her brother is 9 and has autism. And it's, I mean, he can talk, but his outbursts, tantrums, outbursts, whatever you want to call them, are very, very bad. And they are very hard to control. Like I know with Christopher, that's my son. When he has a tantrum, we have ways that, you know, he never gets quite that bad. So, and he's not as rigid as this boy in this story. But he has like White Wednesday, where everything that he eats on Wednesday has to be white. That's just one example. There are several others. So you're seeing some of him through her. So that's 2. Then the third is this boy that she meets, who is in a wheelchair that lost his legs in an accident. So that's 3. And so, you know, she's trying to find her way. Can she tell her new friends about her condition? You know, wearing a wig. You know, we get her feelings about wearing a wig. And this book was so amazing. I gave it 5 stars. And just really loved it. And the story between these two is just so cute. And yeah, it was a great book, and really short too. So I definitely would also recommend this one. But yeah, that was an amazing book also. The one that I didn't get to in this was that was for Read a Romance, if I didn't say that. But the one I didn't get to was Read a Book featuring chronic illness. I did start this one. It was Surviving and Thriving with an Invisible Chronic Illness. I probably got a third of the way through this one. And this one, I don't know. I was liking it okay. I probably would give this one 3 stars. I don't see this one changing. I'm not sure I'm going to, like where the other one that I told you about, The Speed of Dark, I will be finishing. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and finish this one. Just because I wasn't getting a lot out of it. I wasn't getting what I kind of wanted. Because it's very vague. I think I need to find a book that's more specific to my issues, and maybe it would help a little better. But this might be a good one to check out if you're dealing with a chronic illness. Maybe you're just starting out with it and are having, you know, kind of some problems dealing with it. This might be a good book for you. But it just wasn't where I am in my life right now. But I mean, it's not a bad book. Don't think that. It's just, I think I'm not at the point. This probably would have helped, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when kind of my journey with all this started, or towards the beginning of it. So, but yeah, but that's for that one. Okay. So then we have category 5. Another one I didn't get to finish, which was Read a Book featuring an animal. And that one is A Friend Like Henry, by Nuala Gardner. This is another one I will be finishing. This is another autistic story. It's about an autistic little boy. And I believe they're not in the United States. I think they're in England, I think. But this basically tells a story of how they got this dog and how the dog helped Henry. Or no, Henry's the dog, helped the little boy. I don't remember his name. And yeah, so it's very good so far. I'm probably like a quarter of the way through. And, yeah, this is looking like it's going to be probably a 5, maybe a 4. But right now it's definitely looking like a 5, because it's really good. His story is really good. Them trying to figure out what's going on with him, fighting the doctors for an answer. And it's sad because parents with autistic children, I hear about this all the time. We have to fight for our children, fight for a diagnosis, because they don't want to diagnose them when they're young, but to really help them and start helping them, we need diagnoses when they're younger. I mean, there are certain things as you're reading this that he was doing that if you have an autistic child, you're like, yeah, you know, yes, he's autistic. I mean, what else are you gonna, what else is he gonna be? Is he just gonna suddenly get well? No, he's not. And it's just extremely frustrating and extremely sad that the healthcare all over the world, obviously, puts parents through this and kind of makes parents feel like, you know, she even says in part of the book that, oh, I think you want your child to be autistic. You know, no, what parent wants that for their child? It's a very frustrating book, and in the eyes of as a parent trying to fight for your child, it's very frustrating in that. Good book though, but it's just you just want to kind of just shake these doctors and say, look, why are you putting the parents through this? So, but yeah, I would definitely read this book. It definitely gives you a good feel of what it's like at the beginning stages of having an autistic child and not knowing that is what the diagnosis is. That is, because I kind of went through the same thing with Christopher, not as bad as this boy, but not knowing what was going on with him. And, you know, watching movies like Rain Man, thinking that was how all autistic people were, you know, because my son loves to be hugged. He loves to be touched. He loves, you know, the attention and things. And so I always thought that autistic people didn't like to be touched. So that, you know, autism never entered my mind. But as we were getting closer to his diagnosis and I learned more and read more, I learned that autism is a spectrum and that there are so many different components to autism that, you know, it just kind of blew my mind. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. But yeah, A Friend Like Henry, I would definitely recommend, especially if you're curious about autism and don't know anything about it. This is a great kind of a story that you might get an idea of what it's like to have a young autistic child. So, I mean, of course, like I said, you know, there are different areas of the spectrum and they're all, but it just kind of gives you a little peek. So the book I did finish for this category 5, and this is the last book I'll be talking about, and that's just Read a Children's Book. And for this one, I read Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. This one I read really early. I gave this 5 stars. This is told in 2 different timelines. One is told in pictures, and the other one is told in words. And both of the characters are deaf in some way. One of them is completely deaf. The other one starts out not hearing in one ear, and then something happens, and he ends up being completely deaf. And so it's just, oh, it was so good. The art is amazing. The story is amazing. The way they're connected is amazing. And it just, oh, so good. And I really enjoyed it, and I definitely would highly recommend this book also. So these are the books I've read for this readathon. I'm sad that I didn't get finished with all of them. Oops, sorry. But with my reading the way it is, and reading for way too many readathons, I think I did pretty good. Like I said, I will be finishing a couple of the ones I started, and we'll try to let you know what I ended up rating them. So, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really, really, really enjoyed this readathon. Hopefully it is something that they will do again, and I will definitely be participating. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these, if you're interested in reading, any of these. If you guys ever have any questions about Christopher and his autism, please feel free to ask. I do not mind questions. If you ever have any questions about anything about me, about my anything about the illnesses I suffer from, feel free to ask. You will find I'm very open when it comes about talking about things. I don't mind. Yeah, so please always remember to be kind to one another, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!